And we are back with part 2 of Gameweek 22, not Gameweek 21, as I kept saying throughout the last video, and apologies for that. I had my numbers a bit muddled up, and I was a bit tired going into that one. But we are fully fresh, and we are ready for this one. It is Gameweek 22, part 2, and in the news, there have only really been 2 stories. Firstly, games being postponed, seemingly not due to COVID anymore, but more injuries, suspensions, and players away at the African Cup of Nations. And as long as you've got at least one player with COVID, you can get your games called off, as that seems to be the case for Burnley now twice this week, and Arsenal when they got their game called off against Tottenham, despite playing 2 days earlier against Liverpool. Make your own mind up about whether or not these fixtures should go ahead. In my opinion, if you've got a youth academy, you've got quality players. Arsenal keep talking about how good their youngsters are, and I can't really speak for Burnley, but I've seen enough of the Arsenal youngsters to say they could definitely put a team out. But the game's been called off. I think it's also a bit unfair that Arsenal have been kind of made the scapegoats for everything that's been going on. But it is what it is. The games need to get going ahead. Burnley now have 5 games in hand, so good luck to them for getting all of those games played, because they will inevitably pick up injuries playing so many games so regularly, and they'll try and get even more games postponed. Anyway, enough about that. On to the other main news story this week, and that is that Rafa Benitez has now been sacked as Everton manager, probably to the relief of some Everton fans. However, again, Rafa Benitez has been made the scapegoat for everything going wrong at Everton this season, but as a fan of a football club where the boardroom is where the majority of the issues are, I think Everton fans need to be looking at their boardroom as well. And I do feel quite sorry for those Everton fans, because if you look at what's happened over the last 6 months, you can really only point it at the boardroom. Firstly, appointing Rafa Benitez in the first place, fully in the knowledge that he is a Liverpool hero, the man who brought the Champions League back to Anfield. It was obvious that a large majority of Everton fans were never going to accept him as manager, and of course that is exactly what happened. Then you got to look at the players that they've sold. James Rodriguez was a hero for Everton last season, and they just let him go to Saudi. Possibly because Ancelotti left, that one's a little bit more complicated. However, then you got to look at the sale of Luca Digne this week. It was obvious he didn't get on with Rafa Benitez. He didn't agree with the way Rafa wanted to play, and Rafa didn't want to play him. So, at the request of Rafa Benitez, 5 days ago, Everton sold Luca Digne to Premier League rivals Aston Villa. They sold, arguably, in my opinion, their best player to Aston Villa. Then, 3 days after doing that, they then sack Rafa Benitez. And you've got to ask yourself, if they knew the situation was so dire that if they lost to Norwich, they were going to sack Rafa Benitez, why have they sold Luca Digne? Because whichever new manager came in would have played him. And finally, you've got to look at the shortlist of managers that they want to replace him. Firstly, Roberto Martinez, who, when he was at Everton before, took them from a team that was challenging for Europe every year to a team that was barely managing mid-table. Wayne Rooney, who again, club hero for Everton, and obviously I love him as a Manchester United fan, but yet to prove himself. He's doing alright at Derby. If you took away their points deduction, they would be comfortably in mid-table in the Championship, but is a manager that would be comfortably mid-table in the Championship ready to step up to the Premier League? I'd argue not, and the proof of that would be the third man on their shortlist, which is Frank Lampard. The people making the decisions at Everton right now are getting it all wrong, in my opinion. And like I said, I feel very sorry for Everton fans, but it is what it is. Anyway, we're not here to discuss the news. We are here to do some predictions. So let's get into Game Week 22 Part 1's results and then the Part 2 predictions. So, here were my predictions for Part 1 and here were the results. And I'm not going to lie, this was quite a bad weekend. We started with Brighton and Crystal Palace on the Friday night, and of course it was a Brighton game, so I got it wrong, and I almost got it completely wrong, because if it wasn't for a last minute own goal from Crystal Palace would have got the deserved win. Conor Gallagher looking absolutely fantastic once again. Will he get in the Chelsea team next season? I don't know. I hope for his sake that he does, because I really, really rate him, but with the amount of players Chelsea have, I just can't see it happening. Brighton will probably feel very, very lucky that they got their point there. Yet another draw for them, but no points for me. Man City and Chelsea was certainly a game for the football purists. I imagine a lot of casuals watching this game would have found it quite boring, but for me, I thought it was a fantastic tactical battle. Two teams with world-class players all over the place, apart from Chelsea's strikers. I've said enough times about Lukaku how he just didn't look right at Manchester United, and I didn't expect him to look right at Chelsea, and he really didn't. John Stones, with the greatest respect to John Stones, should not ever be winning headers against a player of Lukaku's stature, and not only did he win some headers, he won literally every single header over Lukaku, and to be quite honest, that's embarrassing. As for the overall game itself, I built it as the battle of my two Team of the Year candidates, De Bruyne and Kante, and lo and behold, the big moment of the game was a battle between those two players, resulting in Kevin De Bruyne shrugging off Kante and then hitting a fantastic shot into the far corner past Kepa. 1-0 win for Man City, 12 wins in a row, 13 points clear at the top of the table, something like that. I think the title race is probably, almost definitely over. And the question is now for them, can they go on and win the Champions League? Remains to be seen. Burnley and Leicester, as we spoke about in the intro, was called off. Newcastle and Watford was looking good for me. Newcastle were in complete control of the game, and then with 2 minutes left, they've fallen asleep on a cross, and little João Pedro has out-jumped Jamal Lascelles and put the ball in the back of the net. I imagine Eddie Howe would have been fuming. Newcastle should have won that game. Big relegation 6-pointer against the team currently occupying 17th place. But it only ends in a draw, so Newcastle's struggles continue. Everton and Norwich, again, obviously, we spoke about the managerial sacking, but as for the game itself, I mean, it just summed up everything that was going wrong. An own goal, falling asleep at their own kickoff, 2 goals in 90 seconds for Norwich. If you saw that back pass from Mikalenko towards Pickford, where he looked, saw the Norwich striker in front of him, and then just passed it to him anyway, highlighting even more the sale of Coutinho. Then Salomon Rondon, Rafa Benitez's big signing, comes off and he brings on Richarlison, and guess what happens? Richarlison, a phenomenal player that plays every game for Brazil, scores, but it was too late. It finishes 2-1. Everton lose, Benitez loses his job, and maybe it really was Agent Rafa all along. Wolves and Southampton, I said during the Part 1 predictions that I went for this result based on how well Southampton played against Brentford, getting that 4-1 win. And you know what? Upon reflection, I was being very disrespectful for Wolves, who have been fantastic this season under Bruno Lage. They were thoroughly deserving of the win in this game. Adama Traore finally got his first goal of the season. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that outstanding free kick from James Ward-Prowse. We all knew how good he was from 25 yards with the Beckham-style free kicks. And just when you thought he couldn't get any better, he pulls out a knuckleball from 35 yards and puts it in the top corner. So, fair play to him. I've said enough times I would always have James Ward-Prowse in my England squad just for situations like that. How often he should play for England, I don't know. But I just feel like in a major tournament, there'll be a moment where it's like, do you know what? I wish James Ward-Prowse was on the pitch right now because he'd probably score here. But like I said, massive disrespect to Wolves in my opinion, and 3-1 win thoroughly deserved. On to Aston Villa and Man United, and I'm not disappointed about getting 0 points in my prediction. I am disappointed that Manchester United threw away a 2-0 lead. For 70 minutes, it was arguably our best performance as Ranić took over, However, he refused to make substitutions, and I don't know why. It was obvious Fred and Matic were tired, and they were starting to lose the midfield battle. And when they brought Coutinho on, he could have brought Donny on in that midfield to help shore it up, but he didn't. And Coutinho and Ramsey, who, by the way, I really, really rate Ramsey at Aston Villa. He looks like a fantastic youngster. Villa born and bred, and was definitely the man of the match in that game and in the FA Cup game the week before. Managed to get the 2-2 draw in the end, and to be honest, Villa were unlucky not to get the win in the end. But very disappointed as a Manchester United fan to see that lead thrown away. But that is football, and we move on. Not really a lot to say about Liverpool-Brentford. I think we all knew it was going to be a comfortable Liverpool win at Anfield. It was only going to be a question of how many. I went for 2. It was 3. It is what it is. I get 1 point. And finally, we have West Ham and Leeds, which was, in my opinion, the most entertaining game of the weekend. Yes, I said about how entertaining Man City-Chelsea was for the purists, but this was certainly one for the casuals. Massively end-to-end, loads of chances, big tackles going in, VAR drama, couple of injuries, and fair play to Leeds United youngsters for absolutely fighting for the badge. We know Leeds run more than any other team anyway, but to see their teenagers going out there and putting in a display against a team literally challenging for the Champions League was fantastic. And Jack Harrison picking up a hat-trick, congratulations to him. And a fantastic 3-2 win away at West Ham. Tottenham and Arsenal, again, we spoke about that. That has been called off. So, overall, for Game Week 22 Part 1, we only scored 2 points, which means we're on a season score of 130. Don't forget to let me know down in the comments how you are getting on. Let's get into Part 2. I've left Burnley and Watford up there. Yes, I know the game has been postponed, but the reason I left it up there is because I predicted 0-0 anyway. I didn't think this game was going to offer a lot, and now it's not going to offer anything at all. Brighton and Chelsea is a very, very tough one to call. Brighton always seem to get draws right now. I never seem to predict a Brighton fixture correctly, and I'm not going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for a Chelsea win, and that is purely because Chelsea should beat Brighton. Yes, I spoke about how poor Lukaku has been. I imagine he'll still play in this game. Brighton do have very physical defenders that could just pin him, and nothing could happen in an offensive breath for Chelsea, but I still think they'll have way too much quality for Brighton. They should have way too much quality for Brighton, and I'm going to go 2-1 to Chelsea. But again, don't be surprised if you see Brighton pull off a result in that game. Leicester and Tottenham, another really tough one to call. Obviously, both teams had their games called off at the weekend, so all I have to go on going into this fixture is what I said in the Part 1 video. Leicester without all of their strikers, so we're either going to see Barnes, Lookman or Perez play up front, and they are conceding a lot defensively at the moment. Tottenham, on the flip side, have lost Heung-min Son, who is a massive, massive loss to them, and still themselves haven't sorted out their defensive frailties as well as Antonio Conte would have liked. They are obviously looking at defenders in the transfer window but are yet to sign one. Who will play with Harry Kane remains to be seen. I would expect Lucas Moura to be playing, but is Bergwijn really going to play? Since he looks like he's going to leave, I don't know. I don't think Ndombele will play since he's out of favour. Ali's still massively out of form, and that Gil Diaz is yet to perform. So, a lot of things that could be missing for either team, and since I haven't done one yet for this game week, this is going to be my 2-2. I can see it being entertaining. I can still see there being a lot of goals despite both teams missing attacking threats because both teams are still weak defensively. So I think 2-2 is a fair prediction for this game. And finally, we have Brentford and Man United. And I'm just going to let my bias take over on this one. We should beat Brentford. in the nicest way possible, with the greatest respect for Brentford, Manchester United, with the players that they have, should beat Brentford. Now, yes, Brentford have kind of become the new Stoke. Can you do it on a cold, rainy night in Brentford? And you know what? Liverpool didn't, and Arsenal didn't, and Man City almost didn't. But, again, we should have way too much quality for them. Ronaldo should be back. It looks like Pogba might even be back. Whether or not he'll play remains to be seen. Whether or not him playing is a good thing remains to be seen. Luke Shaw will be back from suspension, although I thought Telles played really well against Aston Villa. McTominay will be back from suspension, who I think was missed against Aston Villa. I hope Anthony Elanga starts again, because I thought he was very good. But yeah, I mean, the position we're in, not only should we be beating Brentford, we have to beat Brentford. And I'm going to go for a 3-1 win to Manchester United. And that will conclude Game Week 22, Part 2, but of course the overall Game Week as a whole. We do have the Carabao Cup second leg on Thursday night as well. So I will be back on Friday morning. Drop a like if you enjoy this video and the series. Don't forget to comment down below with your 3 predictions for Part 2. And as I said, I will see you on Friday morning. Thank you very much for watching.